There's a lot of ways to do some really cool running in place jump rope freestyle combos. I'm going to show you how to do each of these. I'm going to show you the differences so you know what you're doing and how to do it correctly. First one we're going to go through is running in place crosses. You do running in place and then you do alternating crosses back and forth. You don't have to alternate your crosses. You could just do the exact same type of cross over and over if you wanted to, but we're going to go over the alternating ones. That's a little bit cooler, a little bit more fun to spice up your jumping. Now, as you do this, a lot of jumpers will actually want to whip their hands super wide and cross super far. Doing that aggressive of a motion is just not necessary to get this done. So as you jump, instead of having your elbows cross and doing this really massive cross position, just focus on having the middle of your forearm overlap. This is gonna be enough. As long as your handles go past your hip and your shoulder, that's good, you're fine, you'll be able to do your cross. And instead of whipping the rope from side to side, going left, right, you wanna focus instead on using your wrist to point the rope down at the floor as you jump and do your running in place. So pointing the rope down at the floor as you jump brings the entire rope lower, which means it's more likely that you're actually gonna be able to jump over it as you're doing this combo. So focus on using your wrists to point down. Don't just lock your arms out in this position, which is very common. You'll see people lock their arms out. Don't reach this way. Keep your elbows relaxed, cross your forearms over each other, but bend your wrist and use your wrist to guide the rope around. And instead of rushing through this and just going faster and faster and faster, like it's out of control, slow it down just a little bit until you feel like you understand what's going on and can really pay attention and make these adjustments. It helps also to just do maybe 3 or 4 jumps at a time, try a cross, and then stop and reset. A lot of jumpers will just go for as long as they possibly can, but the longer you're jumping for, the harder it gets to make these corrections. So just doing 1 or 2 at a time, focusing on a correction, stopping and resetting is definitely the way to go. And the last part about the running in place crosses is to make sure that you're not crossing way out in front of your body. Keep those hands close and tight to your waist. That's gonna give you the most control to really relax and do this combo nice and easily. Now the next one we're gonna focus on is doing running in place plus 1 side swing per side. Sometimes people call this a southpaw. Southpaw is a generic term used for a lot of different stuff. I would really recommend just calling this a side swing, because as you keep getting better and better with jump rope, you do cooler combos. This side swing can be used in a lot of really unique different ways. So understanding that it is an element on its own that you can use in different combos is super important. Now, as you do this, you wanna make sure that the hand that goes across your body for the side swing is on top of the other hand, and that your wrists are pretty close to each other. That hand has to be on top, because this way you can bring the rope around smoothly back to the middle for the regular jump. If your hands move over to the side like this, and they're not close to each other, they don't overlap, it's a lot harder to bring that rope around, and it tends to catch itself. So if you find that you're filming your reps and you're watching what you're doing, your hands are out here, this is probably causing a lot of the mistakes. So it's not just that, you just don't get jump rope. It's not that at all. It's just that the mechanics are slightly off. And if you adjust that and make this change, it's gonna get a lot easier to do these swings. So make sure that as you reach across your body, the hand that is moving across your body is on top of the other hand as you're doing that. Also, keep those hands in front of your hips. So as you're jumping, hands stay in front. Don't reach aggressively and twist your torso to pull those hands back. Keep your torso upright. You don't need to be twisting that much. You just need to drop your hands in front of your hips nice and easily and use your wrists to rotate the rope and come around. Now, as you do these side swings, it can be a little bit tricky to get that timing done correctly. So you want to remember that you should jump right before the rope clicks the ground every single time. Sometimes it's a little bit hard because you wait for the rope to swing and the swing hits the ground and then you jump. You want to go a little bit before that swing actually strikes the floor. That's going to keep your timing and your rhythm super even and super consistent. And even though this combo is actually going from one side to the other, back and forth, you're going to find that one side's going to feel a lot easier than the other side. So what you want to do, again, is to just take it down to like 3 or 4 jumps, do some running in place, do one side, come back to the middle, and then stop. Just like that. Just do that one round of that and focus on one side at a time. Once you've done that for 5 or 10 minutes or so, you've practiced that for a little bit, then go to the other side and do the same thing, couple jumps, one side swing, couple jumps, and then stop. Isolating just one side versus the other is really important, because if you start to go back to back and that's the only way you practice, it gets very, very frustrating because you're not taking the time to really get control over both sides. Once you do, even just a little bit of practice goes a long way when you go to do the entire combo all together. And the last combo is really similar to what we just did, but this time we're swinging from one side to the other. So we call this a swing transition. What you're gonna do is actually start off with a side swing with your hands open next to your side. So this is actually the type of side swing we said not to do a second ago, but now we're gonna do it on purpose. You want your hands to just shift over to the side. We call this a box swing. It's like you're holding a box next to your body. The hand that is farthest from your body pulls the rope and leads it over to the other side, and that hand goes on top of the other wrist. It's really important to follow this exact pattern where you have that regular jump, you do that box swing, you swing to the other side, that dominant hand goes on top of the other wrist, then you pull the rope all the way around back to the middle. This is really important to make sure that on both sides, whichever one you start with is a box swing, and that dominant hand that's farthest pulls to the other side, goes on top of the other wrist, and over. This, if it does not go correctly, will make things very awkward and very difficult. If you do it the right way, it should feel like weirdly easier than you expected. Like it just kind of fit together nicely and was very smooth. That's what we're going for. So make sure that when you do this, you may need to practice this just standing to make sure that you do have that pattern correct with your hands, because making sure that you can control this, very critical to getting the running in place option done very smoothly. But once you have practiced that, and those swing transitions do make sense and they feel very comfortable, we want to do a pattern of a couple running in place, and then we do swing, swing, back to the middle, just like that. And just like we talked about before, practice one side first. Just focus on one side, because if you go back and forth, all these hand positions are just gonna get really jumbled up and it's gonna be really frustrating trying to control it all together. So just do, again, a couple running in place, and then one side, back to the middle, stop, reset, and do that other side, right? And just focus one side at a time so you really can see what's happening. Feel free to look down and watch how your hands are moving. Definitely take a lot of video and look at what you're doing. You want to make sure that when you watch yourself back, you are actually doing what you think you're doing, because right now, I can guarantee you're going to feel like you're doing the right kind of correction, and you're going to watch it and you're going to go, oh, that's not what I thought I was doing. This is the most common thing that happens with newer jumpers. So just take the time to go through that process. And once you've done that on one side, of course, repeat the exact same thing on the other side, and then stop, reset, and go again. So you really want to make sure that you go through each of these running in place combos just like that. But once you do, a really fun challenge is just to link the entire thing all together. There's a lot of freedom in how you do this, but I'm just going to give you a very quick, very simple way of doing it. We can put everything together in counts of 4. So we can start with our crosses, and we want to start counting on the first cross. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's our first 4 count. And then from there, we move on to doing the side swings, counting on the very first side swing. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after that, we can do the exact same pattern with our swing transitions. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we can repeat the exact same thing on the other side. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Always making sure to start counting on the first time you go into either a swing or a cross. Now, another way of saying this is just doing it all together back to back, but it's nice to have very specific jumps so you know you're following the pattern the exact way that you intended to do it. If we do it all together, we can start with a few running in place, start counting on our first cross and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can put all those back to back just like that, which is really fun. You can speed it up or slow it down depending on how you want to do the combo. Definitely start slower, but as you get more comfortable with it, you can go faster and faster. You don't need to bring your knees up really high if you want to, and you want to do that style. That's totally fine, especially if you want more of a workout. But you can also just keep your feet nice and low to move through it a lot more quickly. So those are some of the coolest running in place cross and swing combos. If you want more information on different ways to jump as a beginner, I got some cool resources for you down below.